Notats was notified the case had been reassigned to Assistant United States Attorney Marvin Blaine, whom asked to be brought up to speed with the case. Notats met with Blaine, noting how he gritted his teeth as he learned how easy it was for the undocumented aliens to obtain a Texas driver license. He remarked how the system made him jump through hoops every time he had to renovate his license. Blaine exclaimed, "This is crap." Blaine wanted to strengthen Benai's knowledge of the ongoing scheme and asked that Benai be interviewed, and stressed, "No need for Miranda warnings, guys. This will be a non-custodial interview." Notats made a note on his pad and began to brainstorm on the logistics and setting for the interview. Perhaps some undercover calls to Benai, posing as a customer. Next, Notats brought up an additional money laundering charge to go with a future indictment, further explaining that the human smuggling was also considered specified unlawful activity, or SUA, one of the long list of predicate acts necessary to prove money laundering under the statute. Blaine acknowledged he was unfamiliar with the statute, but was open to the idea and suggested a meeting with another AUSA better familiarized with the money laundering statute, to which everyone agreed. Several days later, Notats and Blaine met with AUSA Nick Gomez. Notats went through the scheme, highlighting the financial aspects of the operation, particularly how Benai received currency as payment and then deposited into his bank account. The second transaction constituted money laundering when the currency entered the financial system. Behind every unlawful license application was a paper trail, receipts from, bank transactions, phone records, postage fees, fuel charges, hotel stays. Each seemingly ordinary payment was possibly evidence of something far more serious. All what was necessary to add a possible money laundering charge for promoting the unlawful driver's license scheme, either by direct or circumstantial evidence, was that Benai knew the money he used to further his scheme was obtained as payment from the overstays, furthering their unlawful status within the United States, and he made a financial transaction afterwards. Payment was not enough. Intentionally promoting his driver's license scheme, money laundering count. And for investigators, the case was beginning to fit that definition perfectly. At the U.S. Attorney's Office, a financial crimes briefing, Assistant U.S. Attorney Gomez broke it down clearly for Blaine and Notats. "That's textbook promotion money laundering," he explained. "Every time a hotel bill was paid, every time gas was pumped, every plane ticket purchased, every DMV fee covered, it's money being used to further the scheme." Each transaction, he said, was a step in the inducement and shielding of undocumented aliens, a violation of federal human smuggling statutes. And if you can match those payments to Benai or his accounts with receipts, bank statements, and a clear connection to each illegal alien travel or license application, it would satisfy a federal money laundering charge under Title 18 U.S. Code 1956 A1AI, intent to promote the carrying on of specified unlawful activity. The AUSA offered one more piece of advice: keep it simple. No complicated transfers. Simpler is better, because in the courtroom, complexity confuses. But a chart on an easel showing clean links between the money and the crime convicts. With the legal framework in place, Agent Notats began assembling the building blocks of a federal indictment. Each motel bill, each gas receipt, each airfare booking was no longer just a line item. It was proof. Proof that Isaac Benai hadn't just coached applicants, he solicited them, he enabled them, he profited from their deception. Promotion money laundering requires just three things: A, proceeds from unlawful activity; B, a financial transaction; C, an intent to promote further criminal conduct. Benai checked all three. The desk sprawned with a montage: receipts, bank logs, highlighted documents, charts on a caseboard. Notats and federal prosecutors mapped it out. For Assistant U.S. Attorney David Blaine, his frustration increased by the day. DPS was flipping him off. It was a major problem as he had to determine what their position would be if he indicted Benai. Something had to be done. The way DPS was issuing Texas driver's licenses, knowingly, to foreign nationals with no lawful presence wasn't just negligent, it bordered on complicity. If Benai ever went to trial, he could argue as an affirmative defense, "I didn't trick anyone. DPS knew exactly what we were doing." Enough to confuse the heck out of a jury. And based on the records, he wouldn't be wrong. Blaine spent months trying to get answers. Emails, calls, letters. Nothing. No one at DPS headquarters, no lawyers from their general counsel's office, nada. Silence. Finally, one afternoon, he slammed the receiver down and muttered, "They're deliberately ignoring me." At the U.S. Attorney's office, internal pressure was mounting. Blaine was under fire. His boss wanted this case to go away for some reason. The U.S. Attorney warned him, "Either Homeland Security finds the evidence, or we drop it." Blaine called NOTATS. "HSI needs to push this upstairs, fast, otherwise it's done." Meanwhile, at the DHS office, SAC office Dallas, Special Agent in Charge Kevin Laughlin was being briefed. NOTATS, his group supervisor, and an assistant special agent in charge sat on a table across from Laughlin while an outline was presented. Nothing fancy. A taxicab owner with a driver license operation using Texas DPS as an accomplice. Laughlin leaned back in his chair. "You're shitting me. You can't make this stuff up even if you tried." He thought about 9/11, about IDs, about gaps in state systems. This has national security written all over it. He picked up the phone and called U.S. Attorney Lamar Mercer. "When can we meet?" The gears of the case were now on full overdrive. At the governor's office, Office of Homeland Security Director, each state had created a DHS liaison. When no one at DPS would talk, Blaine went above them, way above them. He called Stephen McGavin, the first director of Texas Homeland Security. A former FBI man, respected, connected. The kind of guy who could cut through layers of state bureaucracy in one phone call. "Blaine, good morning, Mr. McGavin. I'm a federal prosecutor in Dallas. I need to give you a heads up on something serious." "McGavin, go ahead." "Blaine, we've got a guy running a scheme, exploiting DPS loopholes, bringing in undocumented aliens from special interest countries, getting them legit driver's licenses." McGavin, interrupting, "Wait, how is that even possible?" Blaine, "That's what I've been trying to find out. For 3 months, Austin DPS has ignored me. They won't talk to me. The aliens are taken in broad daylight, like regular customers. The operator even helps them during testing, since they're ESL, English as a second language. Then the licenses are mailed to motels acting as mail drops. From there, they're forwarded out of state. The aliens then exchange the Texas licenses for local ones in states that don't issue licenses to undocumented immigrants." McGavin sat forward, brow wrinkled. "McGavin, this stinks to high heaven. So why won't the boys in Austin shoot straight with you?" Blaine, "Your guess is as good as mine." McGavin, "All right, leave it with me. I'll make some calls." Blaine, "Thanks. I owe you one." That call may have been the turning point. It was early fall in North Texas when Agent Notats and a fellow DHS agent set up surveillance outside a familiar Motel 6. One of several Benai had turned into an operational hub. They didn't have long to wait. A black Lincoln Town car pulled into the parking lot. The driver, a young man, early 20s, dark hair, olive skin, not Benai, but clearly part of the machine. They tailed the car from a safe distance, 2 vehicles taking turns trailing from behind. Apparent destination, Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. Minutes later, the driver returned with a carload of passengers. All traveling lightly, small suitcases. Just quiet, informal exchanges at the airport. They seemed to be headed straight back to the motel. Back the motel, agents took opposite vantage points. "Did you get that number?" Referring to the apartment number. "No, too far. I'll get out and walk past it. Get a photo if possible." Later, Notats and his partner approached room 214. Standard procedure. Observe the hinges. You always want to know which way the door swings. Expect the unexpected, always searching for the nearest cover and/or concealment. He knocked firmly, credentials in non-shooting hand. "Hi, we're agents with Homeland Security. Do you have a moment?" The door opened. Inside, nearly a dozen men and women, seated or standing, with papers and manuals in hand. "We're just studying for a driver's test," the young man explained in a thick Israeli accent. Notats asked the man to step outside. The door shut behind him. He was cooperative, calm, a little too calm. Cool customer. He handed over an Israeli passport. It was pristine, issued right before his travel to the U.S. Entered through JFK on a tourist visa, 13 months ago. What's your occupation? I'm a taxi driver. I work for Mr. Benai. That was all notats needed. The man was out of status and working illegally. Do you mind if I pat you down? For safety. Of course, but what's going on? The pat-down revealed no weapons. The man was polite, even deferential. Still, notats retrieved his cuffs. In the background, his partner was arranging a transport van. There were 8 people likely to process. At the parking lot, just before being cuffed, the driver made a strange request. May I say a brief prayer before leaving? Please. Normally, the answer would be no, but this could be a good way to establish rapport. And this moment felt different. He retrieved a set of black leather tefillin from his bag, laid them out across the closed trunk of the Lincoln. He wrapped one around his left arm, another placed carefully on his forehead. They are supposed to have the Torah verses inscribed inside. Exodus, Deuteronomy. He bowed slightly, eyes closed, just seconds. Then he carefully unwrapped them, placed them back in their sack, and allowed himself to be cuffed. The DHS agents had never seen anything like it. At the DHS processing facility, back at the station, the other 8 were separated by nationality, all Middle Eastern, all out of status. The driver waived counsel, choosing instead to cooperate. He asked, "Can I speak to someone from the CIA?" Notats. Why? I can't say. Notats didn't blink. Look, the only people who can help you right now in your present situation are in this room, right now, no one else. The man lowered his eyes. Then he spoke. He described how long he had worked for Benai, how he got paid, where he was staying, how he knew when and who to pick up. He claimed military service. He claimed to have fought alongside Americans in Iraq. He said, "I know we were no supposed to be there, B. I was. Can I speak to someone from the FBI?" Again, the answer was no. You can talk to us, and we decide if this is something they need to get involved in. But he wouldn't say how or when. He never said who sent him. The breadcrumbs pointed again to backstopped identities, possibly intelligence-linked, but no admission ever came. Eventually, he and the other passengers were processed for removal. No criminal charges were filed. AUSA Blaine chose not to pursue the shielding and transport violations. The driver was deported. The investigation continued. At Governor Macy's private office, Texas State Capitol, Austin time, 5:33 p.m. The late afternoon sun casts long shadows across the polished mahogany floors. Bookshelves lined with law journals, framed family photos, and a large portrait of President Reagan hang behind the desk. Governor Racy stands at the window, sipping black coffee from a white "Don't Mess with Texas" mug. He doesn't turn when McGavin enters. Susan, at the door, "Stephen McGavin for you, sir." Macy, still at the window, "Bring him in." McGavin enters. No handshake. These two go back decades. There's no need. Macy, finally turning, "All right, what's so important it couldn't wait till morning?" McGavin, closing the door behind him, voice even, "Texas is at the center of a licensing scheme involving undocumented foreign nationals from special interest countries, Middle East, North Africa. It's been happening right under our noses, and DPS is the enabler." Macy sets mug down, tone sharpening, "What the hell are you talking about?" McGavin, "Guy named Yitzhak Benai, Israeli national, operating what looks like a transport and documentation ring. Brings undocumented folks into Texas, mostly through New York. They stay a few weeks. He walks them into DPS offices, helps them pass the test, sometimes even doing it for them, and uses a local motel as the delivery address. They get Texas licenses, then use reciprocity agreements to get legit IDs in their home states, where they're otherwise barred." Macy slowly lowers himself into his leather chair, steepling his fingers. His demeanor cools, but his eyes sharpen. "Macy, you're telling me people who aren't supposed to be here are getting government-issued ID with our seal on it?" McGavin nods. "Exactly. The feds are on it. Homeland Security investigations in Dallas. They've already detained and removed several, including Benai's driver. But the prosecutor can't get DPS to return his calls. For 3 months. Macy, why the silence? McGavin, my guess? Somebody got creative with a policy workaround. No legal foundation, just bad internal interpretation, and now they're trying to bury it before it blows. Macy stands again, pacing now, hands behind his back, thinking, calculating. Macy, how bad could this get? McGavin, worst case? One of these guys commits a terrorist act, and the press finds out he had a Texas license, our license. Macy, low voice, Jesus Christ. He stops pacing, looks McGavin in the eye. Macy, you said special interest countries? McGavin, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, Egypt. One from Jordan we haven't ID'd yet. That's the tip of it. Macy, do we know how long this has been going on? McGavin, at least a year, possibly longer. Benai's made a business out of it. And DPS? Well, they gave him the keys to the kingdom. Whether it was willful or stupid, that's still unclear. 2 other similar schemes have sprung in Houston and El Paso. Macy shakes his head. I can't have this bleeding into a primary season. You know I've been talking to donors. Macy, firmly, then we need to move, now. Let's get that DPS director here pronto, first thing tomorrow morning. We need to know exactly how this happened, and more importantly, why. How can this have gone on for this long before anyone noticed? Any thoughts? McGavin, we're going to need to rescind all those licenses, pull every license issued under those questionable criteria. My FBI contacts don't know much since it's a DHS case, but there's been some peripheral stuff that raised their eyebrows. They suspect some of Benai's customers belong to the Mossad, the Israeli version of the CIA. Those Austin bureaucrats need to respond to that federal prosecutor ASAP. Macy, aren't they supposed to be our allies? Short answer, any mule's tail can catch burrs. Yes, whatever they had in mind, sure as hell blew up on their faces. We now have their photos and fingerprints, and I'm sure they're already in many databases. Above all, DPS needs to get its house in order before an oversight committee does it for them. Macy, what's the media exposure so far? 0. Feds are playing it close, but that won't last. You've got maybe 2 weeks, tops, before someone leaks or a state gets wind. Macy, grabbing the phone. Get me Colonel Howland at DPS. I want him in this office by 8 a.m. No aides, no phones. He hangs up, looks back at McGavin. Macy, quietly. If this explodes, it won't just cost people their jobs. It'll cost us Texas, and maybe more. McGavin nods gravely. He knows. Macy, keep me posted, hourly if you have to. And Stefan pauses at the door. Yes, sir? Macy, make sure no one sees you leave.
The interview room. The following week, Agent Notats began preparations for the interview. He wanted to get into Benai's mind quickly. Notats printed several key things into poster-sized documents. A link chart with Benai at the top with addresses and DPS-issued licenses by locations. Photos of his vehicles with plates clearly visible next to the motels. DPS-issued driver's license totals by location. Insurance companies. He pinned them to the walls of the interview room, a silent third person in the room. His goal was simple: make Benai feel overwhelmed even before a word was spoken. At a gated community, North Dallas, late afternoon, Notats drove the dark blue government Grand Prix through the gates of a quiet, well-manicured neighborhood with private security. Benai's house was a brick, one-story home, over $300,000 in value. County records showed it had been bought outright, paid in full, no mortgage. The taxi business must be booming. Notats rang the bell. A woman answered. Greetings, my name is Legnam Notats from the Department of Homeland Security. He held up the black leather wallet. A golden Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, badge glinted in the sunlight. Is Mr. Benai in? A pause. Then, Yitzhak, it's for you. Benai appeared in a white polo shirt and sandals. Mr. Benai, here's an administrative subpoena requiring your presence at the date and time indicated. Please sign here acknowledging service. Benai furrowed his brow. What is this about? I'm afraid I can't discuss that at this moment. Thank you. Benai signed. Notats turned and walked briskly back to the Buick. The following week at the DHS office, interview room, North Stemmons Freeway, the room was stark. Fluorescent lights, one table, two chairs, and walls with visual data. To the left, photographs of motels with totals beneath them, just a number. To the right, photographs of his town cars parked at the motels. Behind Notats, a photo of Benai atop of a link chart to motels, apartments, vehicles, etc. He tested the recorder, then tested the backup. Fresh batteries, clean audio. He brought a notepad, completely blank, and a case folder stuffed with documents that meant nothing but looked important. It wasn't just interrogation, it was theater, psychological leverage, without saying a word. At the lobby, Benai enters. Benai showed up 5 minutes early. Pressed shirt, clean shave, no lawyer. An agent escorted him to the room. He sat, looking around, focusing on the link chart, paused. Each wall stared back at him, with his operation in print. He adjusted his collar, a trace of sweat on his forehead. Notats didn't speak for the first 30 seconds, just let the silence drag. Purposely rearranging the items on the table had to wait for Benai to start the conversation. He clicked the record button on both digital recorders and verified they were recording. Next, purposely ignoring Benai, Notats began speaking a preamble for the recording. The party speaking is Special Agent Legnam Notats, presently located in the interview room. Present with me is Mr. Isaac Benai, date of birth, and SSN. The purpose of this interview is to discuss matters concerning his business. The time is 10 a.m. The charts spoke louder than words. What is all of this? Can I get you anything? Some water? Yes, my name is Special Agent Legnam Notats. I work for Homeland Security, HSI. As he produced his credentials, by policy he was required to identify himself. I really appreciate you coming here today. There are some things I'd like you to clarify for me. But first, understand, even though that door is closed for privacy, you are free to leave at any time. Do you understand that? Yes. Also, is there anything which may keep you from being absolutely truthful today? For example, are you taking any medications or under the influence of any drugs? No. From my understanding, you are a college graduate. Is this correct? Yes. In accounting, I think. You have to be pretty smart to be a numbers man. Yes. Notats wanted to start with an open-ended question. Let him begin to talk. Get comfortable. You were born in Israel. Beautiful country. Legendary peoples. How was that? I mean, a very complicated environment. Benai went back to his childhood. Almost 2 hours later. The party speaking once again, his Special Agent Legnam Notats. The time is. The interview is concluded.
Out of the blue, USA Blaine received a call from an Austin DPS attorney promising a formal letter would follow the next day. Assistant U.S. Attorney David Blaine sat in his office, staring at the folder on his desk. Inside were investigative reports, with all the evidence compiled to date transcripts, Benai's scheme laid bare. It was time to make a decision: issue a target letter or hold. A target letter wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a legal shot across the bow, a formal notification that the Department of Justice had collected substantial evidence linking the recipient to a federal crime. Once received, there's no more guessing. You are the target of a federal investigation and likely going to be indicted. Blaine remembered a detail that stuck with him. During Benai's interview, he had turned to Special Agent Notats and asked, "Should I get a criminal attorney?" A telling moment. But Notats, bound by agency policy, replied flatly, "I'm not allowed to give legal advice to the public." That limitation frustrated Blaine. They were this close to flipping Benai, or at least understanding how far he was willing to go. Notats had noted something else, too. He thought about the cost of a federal criminal defense. Tens of thousands, sometimes more, especially in a conspiracy or fraud case with national security undertones. But perhaps more telling, most people don't need a lawyer to tell them they're in trouble. When you walk into a DHS office and see your photograph taped to the wall and addresses linked to you, if you can't figure out you might need legal counsel, then what can you say? Blaine tapped the corner of the target letter draft. Issue it and watch Benai lawyer up? Hold and use the pressure to get him talking. He'd have to decide soon, because in cases like this, time wasn't just money, it was
The target read as follows. On the usual U.S. Department of Justice letterhead, U.S. Department of Justice, United States Attorney's Office, Northern District of Texas, 1100 Commerce Street, 3rd floor, Dallas, TX, 75242, 214-555, XXX. Date, October 3, 20XX. 2. Mr. Yitzhak Benai, redacted address, Irving, Texas. R.E. Criminal Investigation, Notice of Target Status. Dear Mr. Benai, this letter is to inform you that you are a target of a federal grand jury investigation being conducted by the United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Texas. This means that the government has substantial evidence linking you to the commission of one or more federal crimes. These may include, but are not limited to, conspiracy to commit money laundering in violation of Title 18, United States Code, Section 1956, transportation, shielding, and harboring of undocumented aliens in violation of Title 8, United States Code, Section 1324, and mail fraud in violation of Title 18, United States Code, Section 1341. You have the right to be represented by counsel in this.
Bye.